This was the stupidest thing I've probably ever done. I dropped all my weight into the right foot and I come over the top right on this fella's button. I don't knock him out. He like sits back in the chair almost, stumbles back. From there, police just come from everywhere. Start taking me, start grabbing me. They get me in the corner. They mess me up bad. Yeah, look, from there I'm taken. I rang my mum and said, hey mum, I hope you're okay. I just want you to know you've got to get 10,000 euro to a Western talent within 10 days. And if I can do that, I'll be out. If not, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.
Welcome to Fruiting Body Podcast with your host, Brendan. Today, we have a legend of a guest. It is James Pattinson, better known as Jay Patto. He is the head fitness instructor and coach over at Tiger Muay Thai. Now, before we jump into that, let us tell you a bit about who we are. Fruiting Body Podcast is a medicinal mushroom company located in the island of Phuket. We are called Fruiting Body Mushrooms. You can check out our products, lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, all that fun stuff. All organic, all natural, all made in Thailand. Links in the description. We're selling off our website, but it goes to Lazada. If you're tired of listening to me ramble, we got timestamps so you can see different chapters of this podcast and find the content that you're looking for. Do not forget, like and subscribe. We're waiting for it. Especially when you're subscribing, it's helping us to build in the algorithm. We're well over 3,000 subs now, working our way to 5,000. So help us to get there. Now we're going to do something a little bit different today because you're probably tired of listening to me. This is shot after the podcast. So I'm going to kick it over to Jay, and Jay is going to let you know everything that we spoke about and what you can expect to learn and hear from us today. All right, take it away, Jay.
In this story, we tackle everything from my crazy childhood all the way to being broke, imprisoned aboard, to finding success here in Thailand.
Yeah, so again, that's what we're doing on this podcast. We're telling that life story, that journey of where do people come from? How did they get to Phuket, Thailand? What are they doing here? And one more thing, you're going to learn about the number 14, so get ready. Let's get this started. Okay, thanks for joining us, Jay. Thanks a lot. I know it's a bit of a trek down from Rawai.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, just I'll adjust you as you go. We'll watch your mic. We always explain to the guests, because later if we're doing like reels and the mic's up here, it's going to look funny, but just adjust as you go. And if I can't hear you, I'll move it around a bit. Let's just jump right into this. We want to tell the life story of, what did you do before Phuket? What brought you to Phuket and what are you doing here? So take it away. Let's start in your childhood. Where are you from and how did you actually get here?
Yeah, so again, thank you for having me on the podcast. My name's Jay Patto. I grew up in Liverpool, England. Currently I'm 28 years old, so still young coming to this point in Tiger Muay Thai. But before my time in Thailand, I grew up in Liverpool, a place called Walton and Bootle. Went to school there, played football, played soccer my entire life. Up until I was about 14, I ended up switching around. Pretty much of a troubled childhood, I'd say. In and out of different schools, constantly in trouble around the area I was in. But was always a sportsman, was always doing sports, even when I was getting moved from one school to another or suspended from school or something like this. They always said, he's good at sports, he can captain this, he can do this. But the story of my life, my childhood was, constantly in little bits of trouble. Never significant amount of trouble where, I had the police at the door all the time, but the little things that mounted up in the end, I think the compound effect works in many different ways, doesn't it? Around 13, 14, I stopped playing football to the level I was playing at and started venturing into other things. So throughout my childhood, I tried some boxing, had a few Western boxing fights. I had BMX for a while. I loved extreme sports. Managed to make some progress BMXing. I think that my brain's wired. Whenever I'm trying to do something, I've got to do it to an extreme in every single way. And that really is the story, as we probably get into this, that's the story of my life. Everything I do, I tend to overdo and do it to an extreme and become necessarily obsessed. Which in some ways is very, very good, but in other ways, it can come to haunt you, especially BMXing. I went from not doing it so much to learning relatively hard tricks over big jumps and then falling and smashing my face in, breaking my arm, breaking my ankle.
Was it competitive?
It got competitive, yeah. I wasn't as good as a few of the lads around me, but I wanted to be as good as them. So I worked hard. Between like 14 and 16, you know, I started doing amateur shows in England, but then I cycled out of it. I tried to get back into football. As I said, I had a few Western boxing bouts, then went back, tried to get back into football. So around 16, I tried to play football again, but what happened with me, I was a very short lad leaving school. I remember one of the reasons why I stopped a bit younger, local lads in the area were growing, and I was just looking up, and I was like, what's happening? Why am I not growing? I was tiny. So I stopped playing it younger, switched to other things, tried to come back when I was 16, and it's sort of, this little thing now paves the way for the rest of my life up to this point, is that I remember I was getting shoved off the ball, but I was quicker, like playing football, soccer, I was quicker than most. I could get round people, but, you know, strength is a big aspect of it. So I remember saying to myself, like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to come back in a few years' time, and I'm going to show you. And the long version of that is I never really went back until I come to Thailand 10 years later. And I'll explain that probably as I get on. But then, yeah, so my life's really, really began to change around 18. I was doing my apprentice mechanic. I'm a fully qualified mechanic, level 4. I started getting involved into the party lifestyle, to what I'll say. 18 years old. 17 at first, I used to use someone's fake ID, look like me, to go into the clubs. 18, I started. And as I mentioned, I was doing an apprentice mechanic. So I was picking up £2.77 an hour, so maybe like $4 an hour. And I'm practically minded, so I could fix things quickly. The boss had me working as a full-time employee, but paying me pennies and treat me like shit, just to be completely honest. It's just where it gets really interesting, to be fair. So what I realized is, you know, I used to pick up £95 a week. And that £95, I had to pay a little tiny bit of rent, small little things at the time. And I wanted to go out and drink with the lads. I wanted to go out and do things, and it wasn't feasible enough. So, I mean, typical, you could say, like, student life at that point. Wow, I was driving I wasn't driving it just yet. I was cycling to places the cheapest way possible, getting the bus, going to like raves, but no money at all. You know, like having to scrounge around money to get just enough to go there, and then obviously pay for the party, pay for the event. So I'm going to go back a little bit to go forward. When I was around 13, 14, this is going to sound crazy, but you'll understand why I put these together, is that around 13, year 8, year 9 for me in school, we had like a health week in school, and Jamie Oliver, people know Jamie Oliver, the famous chef, he put a health week in school, which turned into a health forever in school, and we weren't allowed to eat chocolate anymore, and 13-year-old me was pretty pissed. Wanted to eat some chocolate. I was like, why not? So I made it my mission to go to the local supermarket, and I would buy loads of cans of chocolate, loads of cans of Coke, and loads of bars of chocolate, and I would go back to school and I'd sell that through school. And why that story relates is the same sort of thing happened and later on in a different world, I'll say. The world that I was going into, I had an idea of what I was going into, but not to the scale of it. So what happened then was like, okay, I'd go to a festival, I'd go to a party or whatever, and I'd realize that a lot of my friends were taking stuff, doing stuff. And I was like, okay, how about we know what's coming? How about I stock up on what they're taking? That way I can sell back to my friends. That means I can stay out with them longer. And, you know, I can have my party. And the world in my head had balanced out in some strange way. So what I just said there, you know, the compound effect, it really, really come true. And I think that was like late 18 into 19. 19 to 20, I traveled around the planet. I went to the best festivals, raves you can imagine. I'd built my way up at the same time as like volunteering as a mechanic. So my mum knows this, we've been through this whole thing, so I don't mind saying this. It's like, I was volunteering as mechanic to cover, and I was basically saying I was on a full wage, and I was just living this bizarre, crazy life at 19 to 20. And you put it where I'm from Liverpool, so I'm from around this time, 1920, Liverpool, my postcode in Liverpool had the highest benefit rates in Great Britain. We had the lowest life expectancy. And what was the other one? I can't recall the other one, but there was
childbirth.
Exactly. All of this.
Or young pregnancy.
Exactly, young pregnancy. Like, I remember at the time, my friend, he had 2 or 3 kids. We were 19. Yeah, this is like common. You know, I remember looking at the what was happening around me. Is like, I wanted better for myself, and I thought this was better for myself because I was able at that very young age to generate a lot of money at that time. I was living a weird life. I was traveling from A to B. I mean, from 18 to 21, I must have went to Amsterdam 40 times. Like, I'd make money on the weekend, and then I'd just fly myself and my girlfriend at the time over to Amsterdam. We'd enjoy, I'd come back, I'd stock up, and it was just like this lifestyle.
Were you kind of traveling and partying, or when you're traveling, you're working as well?
Traveling and working as well, exactly. So, you know, I was able to network and get contacts in certain areas, so I'd be able to land, collect what I was collecting, send them on the way. But then my business got to the point where I had a lad working for me in Liverpool who was a bit younger than me, and in retrospect, I didn't realize that what was happening. I was climbing a ladder which I didn't really see. I mean, it's a weird ladder to climb. You know, respectively, I was doing very well at the bottom of the food chain, which comes in Liverpool, which comes with a price. So, you know, what happened to me then over the next couple of years as I grown, I partied, I lived this life where I was traveling around the world. You're a product of your environment, and I think all the lads back then and everyone else, you're in this place where everyone's poor, so you're trying to prove yourself. I'm trying to prove that almost that I can make it out or these type of things. And, you know, it was very, very difficult. I put my mum through a lot of hell. And it's part of the reason why I am who I am today because of that. So you fast forward from 19 to 2021. I'd lived in Ibiza for like stints of time. I'd been to Vegas. I'd quite literally seen some of the DJs like 15, 20 times. Moved forward with my life until I reached what was my pinnacle in that world. So I'd been on like a 6-week holiday. I'd been to all these crazy parties in Croatia and Spain and stuff. And I went to Belgium, to Tomorrowland. And I'd been there for years prior to it. And again, I know what I was doing. I was doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing in a country that I shouldn't have been in doing that. Period. Non-stop. Like, it is what it is. And this, what I'm about to explain now, changes the complete course, direction, trajectory of my life. And I could talk about it quite easily now, but it's quite literally the best thing that's ever happened. So we were in, I can always put this out crystal clear. So we were in the Tomorrowland Festival on the Friday. We'd been there for 1 hour. I had more drugs than was necessary on me and around my person. And we were in watching a specific DJ at a time. And I said to all the lads around me, don't take it in here. There's police here. Don't take it in here. Don't take it in here. And they were like, well, why? And I said to them, look, this is the area where the police are located behind. Don't take it in here. So what happened then was an Australian guy, he come up to me and he said, can I have a chance I can buy something? So I'm like, okay, yeah. So he told me and I told him his price, and my price was ridiculous, but he was like, yeah, okay. So the greedy version of me back then was just like, yeah, okay. Even though I knew it was the wrong thing to do on every single level, I still went forward and done it. And what happens, obviously, you go to a festival. We walked into the middle of a festival where everyone's up and bouncing, and I'm doing my thing. I give this lad what he needs, and I look over, and it's still a moment in my life I can never forget. The whole, like, the smoke's coming out, this festival's banging, the beat come on, the DJ had just started. And I just look over and I see a guy and he's just still. And he's just looking towards me. He had a Club Bruges top on and he had a satchel like over him. And my instinct was like, that's not right. Why is he so still and looking in this direction? So I do what I'm doing. I keep my eyes up. At that point, I thought I was bigger than what I was. I thought I was invincible. And I really did think I was invincible because of the 20 months prior, 24 months prior. I come out and I'm dancing towards my friends and I'm like, Uberjack that just started this Australian DJ. I just made like €800 in a transaction. it's 21 years of age, only by a few months. And what happens, I have my hand up and all I feel is this person grab my arm as tight as possible. And sheer gut instinct, this was the stupidest thing I've probably ever done. I dropped all my weight into the right foot and I come over the top right on this fella's button. So I don't knock him out. He like sits back in the chair almost, stumbles back. From there, police just come from everywhere, start taking me, start grabbing me. So I'd had some ecstasy about 40 minutes before. This was just peaking. And like, I could feel my body, everything was just... So I start to run, I hit someone else, I run, and I'm literally running down the festival, throwing drugs everywhere, just as much drugs as I could throw as far away from me as possible. They get me in the corner, they mess me up bad. Like, broken rib, black eye, fish hugged me, kicked me, stamped on me. For the numerous reasons, what happened was when they jumped on me, my friends sort of was like, what's happening? They were all undercover, we don't know. So Scousers, people from Liverpool, we tend to travel in packs. We don't really travel in ones and twos. So they all jumped on, which gave me a bit of time to run, which then made the police more pissed at me because of obvious reasons. So yeah, look, from there I'm taken. They managed to like get all the stuff. I'm gonna skim over a few things. I go back. So that was on the Friday. I wasn't allowed a phone call until Monday because of the quantity of drugs I was found with. The festival was still ongoing. Other people who were arrested, they were found with my drugs, so they were saying big fish, like we get big fish. And man, I look young now, 28. I still feel like I look young. I like to think that anyway. Then I looked young. I was a baby, and I think they knew that as well. And it was a tough 72 hours. So I was held. I was taken to Brussels prison cells on the Monday. What happened on the Monday was my sentence. I got given. I had to be held for 90 days, and then I'd be looked to given a 2-year sentence. So this was all in Dutch. I was stood there with a guy who didn't really represent me at all, or didn't translate what was happening, so I couldn't really represent myself. So at one point, I was held for 90 days and then would have been sentenced for 2 years at the 90-day part. What I was really lucky for is, I think I was allowed 72 hours or something to appeal this, and I took the piece of paper to a guy I'd met on the yard. And like, I'm 21. I'm in a country I don't know. I'm fucking scared, man. Like, I'd just been sentenced for 2 years. And at that point, there was a few days, and which I'll explain in a sec as well, it's like I'd made my bed, so it was time to sleep in it. It's like, you know what you've done. Like, it is what it is. So honestly, I appealed the sentence. We went back to court. So this was about now 9-10 days after, so that following Monday. And on that one, I was given opportunity for bail. It was €10,000, like £8,000 at the time. Look, I didn't have that money. I'd been partying like a lunatic for 2 years. I've got amazing memories. I've got a life that I couldn't even imagine for. But I had no money, and I only had one phone number I knew, and that was my mum. So I'd spoke to my mum a couple of times. I was given €5 to make a phone call, and that was the only money I got. So about 13 days after I'd been originally took, I'd spoke to my mum maybe once or twice. They gave me that almost an ultimatum, I'd like to say. I had to get €10,000 to a Western account within 10 days. And if I'd done that, then I'd be allowed to go. And then come back in 90 days for sentencing, of course. So I went back to my mum, and my mum told me that at the time she was just waiting at the phone for something for me to phone, and then she'd pick it up. She was obviously a nervous wreck. I'm a baby. So I rang my mum and said, 25 seconds, I was like, hey mum, I hope you're okay. I just want you to know have you got a pen and paper? You've got to get €10,000 to a Western account within 10 days. And if I can do that, I'll be out. If not, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye. And I just put the phone down. And I was like, I remember putting that phone down. Even now, I get a bit of a shake as I'm saying it. It's like, I walked back to my cell. I was sleeping on the floor. I had the same I say in Scouts, we say bills. I had the same boxers on for at the entire time for 3 weeks. I just stunk, man. I was at an all-time low. I was locked up for 23 hours a day. Anyone knows me, I'm a very active person. No problem saying I've got like ADHD. Locking me up for 23 hours a day was I couldn't do it, and it traumatized me, man. It was really, really bad because you got the language barrier. We were allowed, I couldn't afford anything in there, so I just had the meals I was given, and we had one channel, and it played a movie for 24 hours, and then the next day it played another movie for 24 hours, another movie for 24 hours, and yeah, just the monotonous of it being sedentary for so long, I just couldn't hack. I couldn't do it, and no problem in saying that at all. It's like, you know, when you're in that position, you either embrace it or you reject it, and I rejected it instantly. I was just like, I value my freedom and the time so much. So about 9 days later, time had passed. I started to come in sync with the jails, playing soccer on the yard, I was playing football on the yard. I've got to say that, otherwise my mates will go crazy. I was playing football on the yard. And look, 10 days in, I just got this massive bang on the door. Pattinson, get your stuff, you're leaving in 10 minutes. I'm like, okay. So I'll pack up everything, I go outside, and what happens? Go outside, and they just let me out on the street. And I barely knew where I was. I had to find my way to the local train station. I had to beg for somebody to basically help me use the phone, and then my sister sent money to them. I got on a train to Amsterdam and got out of there. So as that like passes, there's a couple of stories inside of that. So I owed a lot of money out to people, and people came for me. They done what they had to do, and I done what I had to do for them in order to pay off my debts and you know, sort of right my wrong in that world. You fast forward 65 days, something like that. But first of all, I go home. Everyone knows everything about me. Newspaper, all of it. Just you know, your reputation and family name's tarnished. Like, I'm from a good family, man. Like, I'm the odd one. You know, I'm the milkman, as some people like to say.
Well, I think if we're in Thailand this amount of time, I think we all are.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I see this place as a place where nobody actually belongs back home, and we sort of see it here. And yeah, what happened then was 90 days later, I mean, I assaulted a police officer abroad. I was caught with a quantity of so many different substances. Even some of it was not legitimate, and I knew that as purpose. So they found everything, scales, the law. It was bang to rights, you know. So I travelled over there. I said goodbye to everyone, man. Hugged my mom. I was trembling, hugging my mom. I was saying, I'll see you 2 years. I'll see you when the time's spent. And I got on a one-way flight. I flew over to Amsterdam first. I smoked a bit of weed. I wanted to say goodbye. So I smoked a joint and went to Belgium to be sentenced for what I thought was going to be the remainder of the time. And yeah, I went into that court. Still got the picture in me, the image now, and I thought I'm going to walk in that door and I'm going to be in now for at least like 20 months was in my head, like the time spent, or at least a year if I was going to do half the time in their world. And long story short is that they gave me an opportunity because I'd shown remorse. I'd travelled over. I'd come back where, you know, I'd started to live life again. I was volunteering in a different garage, and they wrote a nice letter for me. And yeah, I was very, very fortunate that day to be given a suspended sentence for the remainder of the time. And the judge literally said, basically, get out of Belgium and don't come back. If you're caught here with so much as like, I don't want to use this, but like jaywalking, it's like, you will do that time. So I got out of there as quick as possible, of course. And
zero time.
Yeah, so I had zero time. At the 21 days spent, they took their bail money. So they took €8,000, 10,000 €10,000, £8,000. So exactly. And they took that. That was now part of the bill that I had to pay back to my family. I was very, very, very lucky that they were about. And from there, I just started to build forward. So that was 2015. 2016, I literally sent a message to everybody. I woke up and I walked away from everything. I partied a little bit before, but then I walked away. January 2016, I was like, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to do everything possible now to change my life, and more so to change my mum's life and give her options moving forward. Because say since I could walk, so say for 20 years, I've put her through hell. And, I've put her through hell when, we're already from a broken family. She was already working hard enough. So it was like from there, I had to make my mission external to me. So it's not no longer my ego, I'm doing this for me, which, a lot of things it is, but making it external made me work harder towards. So I put myself as an Uber taxi driver. I was one of the first Uber taxi drivers in Liverpool. I was aware of where it was at. I got a good percentage, and I started to focus on fitness and work forward. So that was 2016. And I was doing 40, 50 hours a week in a taxi and studying around that time. I competed 6 months later. I come in men's physique bodybuilding in London. And I came second out of 38. And I was like, oh, shit, I could do fucking well here. It's like, oh, I was genuinely surprised. Even still now, I'm still surprised.
Okay, so before we get into that, I kind of want to backtrack more, just what's going through your mind on those nights. You're saying you're 23 hours. You're not, you're able to go outside. You're kind of building up this energy, and understanding in your mind, like, are you building a plan during this time of, when I get out of here, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to change? And did you have kind of like steps and goals?
Yeah, so at first, no, until I got the chance of, like, it could be some bail. So at first I was like, I'm doing this for 2 years and I need to adapt to this, please. There was a point when I was in a little small holding cell, which is probably the size of your couch. You couldn't sit down in there. It was tiny, your little chair. And there was a point, and I remember I was waiting to go in to see the judge, and I was like, if I get through this, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this amount of money legitimate through a way, and I didn't know what that way was. And within the next 5 to 10 years, I will be living that same life again, what I thought at that time. I'll be living that same life again, but without any overheads, I'd like to say, without anyone coming after me. So there was so much uncertainty. And then even with the bail, and in the back of my mind, I got the guy, I left this out. So the guy I punched was the chief drug inspector of Tomorrowland. It's a point that I've left out. Yeah, he turned up to court, and he basically said I attacked him. And on the first time, I couldn't defend myself. But either way, I couldn't defend myself. That was bang to right. It was. Well, yeah.
Then you're pretty lucky to be allowed to leave as well, because they easily could crack down on that, and then you're stuck there for 20 months. We're gonna jump into the fitness side and how that all connects as well. But before that, just a quick shout out to 5 Star Marine and Sean Stenning. 5 Star Marine, they're a sponsor on this podcast, so they're just helping us with the production and allowing us to make this content on a week-to-week basis to give it back to you guys, telling you these stories about people living not just in Phuket but in Thailand. If you want to go check them out, it's on Instagram at 5 Star Marine Phuket. And we'll also leave links in the description. A little bit about who they are. They are a VIP private speedboat chartered tour on the island of Phuket. So they're taking you to places like Koh Lipe Bay, Krabi, Phang Nga Bay. You have complete control over your own trip, which most of other services are not offering that. So Hans will probably throw up a QR code. You can scan that as well, or links are in the descriptions. Go check them out. Let them know if we sent you there. It just helps us grow this podcast. So let's get back to the podcast now. Sorry, grab a drink. Oh, I lost my headphones there. Now, where we kind of jumped ahead and fast tracked, you said you went into like bodybuilding and competition. Before you even initially got into that, how did you decide, okay, I'm going to pursue this?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Honestly, I was a fully qualified mechanic, but I was going to gym before and after it, and there was a few little things, little telltales. So I'd go on holiday as like one of the younger lads, because I had the money to go with the older lads, and I would always sort of maybe in competition with myself to be like the most ripped or something like this. And I literally had a choice. It was like I could go back to mechanics. I had a couple of maybe offers at the time, and it wasn't for me. Anyone over 30 in that world respectively has got dirty nails, messed up arthritis in the hands, lower back issues, these type of things. And for me, it didn't look profitable long term, but also it looked detrimental to the body long term. So I just put all my eggs. People say don't put all your eggs in one basket. I put everything into fitness. And I was like, the only reason why I put myself as a taxi driver was to fund fitness. And yeah, so I got into that just through, it was pretty quick. Like I realized straight away, it's like, okay, I want to do fitness, maybe like fat loss, transformation. All the time I'm always heading in a direction without a fixed point. It's like, oh, this is the way I'm going towards, and I'm open to see which way it might go. And yeah, I put myself as that taxi driver. I funded myself, I sponsored myself, you could say it. I was paying people back at the time as well. And yeah, I done that first show. I come second out of 38, and that for me was an eye opener. But it also gave me like clarification that confirmation that I can move forward into this world, and there possibly is something there for me. So yeah, 2016 we built off that. Moved forward. I'd walked away from that other life, and I was starting to be known for something else. The stigma of that story was always attached to me whilst I was in Liverpool back home.
But this is a completely different lifestyle. I mean, that's a pretty obvious response there. People that go through those hard times and that hardship, especially coming from that, like say the underbelly, that world, was there ever a time where that world came knocking back on the door and you had to kind of, close it? And did you ever have second thoughts of, should I open it?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you make a lot of money going to a club and standing there and waving your hands in the air. It's an addictive lifestyle for a variety of different reasons. Social aspect, the drugs, the party, the atmosphere, the constant dopamine and euphoric effects that you're getting is super addictive. Also, Liverpool culture, we love music. Plenty of musicians coming from there. It's in our culture to go drink on the weekends. We're a working class city. So there was constant times to go back. And from the get-go, it's something that I still do to this day. It's like, look, I've got a part of my personality, and it's part of who I am. I've got one tattoo on my body, a stupid tattoo. It says, I love house music, okay? I was 18 when I got it. I was in Ibiza, I was stupid, but what I know to do now, and I still do this, I've literally just come past this period, is I do stuff in seasons. So I'll do 3 to 5 months of heavy hard work, and then I'll have 1 or 2 weeks where I'll be a little bit loose. Maybe I'll party 1 or 2 weekends. I'll scratch that itch, as I like to say, and then I'm focused. I can go back to training, and I do this in line with bodybuilding and a few other things. It allows me to work in seasons, but it always also allows me to keep the erratic, fast/rational side of my brain even. If not, I'll get tendencies to, my work's not as good quality because I've got that itch. I need to scratch that itch. If I one night out, I'm like, I could do this for the rest of my life. I go on 2, I'm like, I'm done. I'll see you soon. I go back to Bangla Road or wherever in Bangkok, and once I've scratched that itch, partied a little bit, I've done my thing, I can go back to refocus immediately again. And I realized that I will continue to do that because that allows me to perform at my best when I need to be at my best. You see a lot of like athletes and people in that world of maybe it's soccer or whatever, and they're constantly trying to tame. I don't want to say the demon inside them, but they're constantly trying to tame something. And I don't know if you've listened to the Chimp Paradox. The Chimp Paradox is a great book. What it does is you got like your inner chimp, and your inner chimp is basically your irrational side of your brain. And I explain this in a way, it's like they tell you to feed it bananas, and that'll keep everything in line. And that's what I like to do. It's like, I know that I'm going to give me a rational side of the brain what it wants a couple of times a year, and that allows me then to focus really as an athlete or, as a coach or wherever I'm working. So, yeah.
I think, and even for, I think a lot of people in Phuket can relate to that, especially with the lifestyle here. It's not like if I was back home in Canada, those options aren't there. Phuket, you can go rage on a Monday, random day of the week in Patong, a beach club. Like, it's always there. But if you don't have something stable and a goal, whether it's fitness or for us, we're doing our products and the podcast, and there's nothing to, let's say, hold you down like a rock, you could slip very quickly.
You get led astray very easily. Yeah. And you got a lot of people, and they're on holidays, but I call it honeymoon period. You got a lot of people coming and they're leaving all the stresses at home. They're coming here happy. They're coming here enjoying the things, doing the thing. And you can, as you said, if you've got no like foundation of a routine, of a regimen, you can get swallowed into their holiday and then leave, and then their holiday, and then you meet them, and you're constantly in that world then.
Yeah, I mean, my first year here, I would say, year or two here, you kind of become the tourist.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you meet so many people, but it's hard to build a friends group because you're always jumping around to the people partying. And I just call them, you know, how it is. It's basically vacation ships.
Yeah.
And then that kind of fades away. And I don't know. Most people in Phuket can relate to that. Jumping ahead now, you've gone through the fitness side. Let's all connect that up to coming to Phuket. In my understanding, you ended up at, is it Koh Yao Noi or Yai for Six Cents?
No, yeah, Koh Yao Noi. So I ended up, there's a crazy story that links me to Koh Yao Noi and Six Senses hotels. Yeah. So I like bridge it a little bit better, sort of between. So 2016, I put myself as a taxi driver. I managed to start competing in fitness. 2017 goes, 2018 goes, I'm progressing. At that point then, from October 2018, I was doing maybe 1 or 2 hours in a taxi, maybe not just an airport run. And I was doing 30, 40 hours a week PT. So I was very fortunate to get a role at one of the biggest gyms in Liverpool after basically my coach had given me an opportunity. So I stepped up. Done very well in that gym. And at that point, 2018, I become 6th in Great Britain in classic bodybuilding, classic physique bodybuilding. And very shortly after, come over to Thailand. So as I tie this in, there's a part which without these two humans, I wouldn't be here. So I feel like I really need to mention them. So my uncle Harry and my cousin Lisa, they moved to Thailand in 2001, 2002, and we lost touch with them until 2018. So look, put that background in. My uncle Harry come over to Liverpool and he had a meal and was like, we lost touch with you for like 17 years, 18 years. And he's like, I will never forget this meal. He says to me, I've been living in Thailand in a small island called Koh Yao Noi. I have a Muay Thai gym, a restaurant, and a hotel. Do you want to come and visit me? I'm like, yeah. I was like, I got to do this show, but I'm going to come over and visit. So we do that. We actually come as a family all together, me, my mum, my sister. They come for a week. I come for 2 weeks. And on that trip, I got to meet the spa director for Six Senses Hotels. And I love that trip. I come over to Asia for the first time. I was, it's in a new world. And for those who don't know Koh Yao Noi, I need to talk on Koh Yao Noi. So Koh Yao Noi is the most beautiful place I have ever been in my entire life. And not just for views, but also for the people there, the way of life there. It's so therapeutic. It's so chilled. Very sabai. Like
you completely disconnect from the world when you go there.
But for a place that's so close to Phuket, it couldn't be further away from Phuket. And the fact that I've got like my family there and obviously, which we'll get to in a second, I was very fortunate to work for Six Senses. Yeah, that place transformed my brain, my life, the way I see things, everything, because it's so quiet and because it's so still and there's no traffic lights on the island. There's a few little things, there's maybe 1 or 2 police officers. You never see anyone. There's maybe 5,000 people max. There's one road that links the whole thing. And it's the beauty, the natural beauty there is outstanding. And I literally went from PTing in the streets of Liverpool to coming back. And so I left Thailand, went home. It's Christmas time. I got an email. Long story short, 3-4 weeks later, I'm on a one-way flight back. Six Senses Hotels is recruited me as their PT. So I'm like, pinch myself. I'm on a one-way flight to go and live on this tiny little island to where my family are, who are just meeting. And I got to say to these, so my uncle, he was a cock and shinwer, I hope to get that right, British and European champion. So for those of you who don't know, that's open height, open weight. My uncle's like 55 kilos and 5'6". He's a little crazy. So there's videos of him. He's a British and European champion. There's videos of him knocking people out.
What is it exactly?
Cock and shinwer karate. So it's
Yep.
yeah, cock and shinwer karate. Sometimes I get that name wrong, so I don't want to butcher that. And he come over here. He paved the way for my cousin. So she was like a Muay Thai champion. And they've had that gym on Koh Yao Noi called KY Phoenix Muay Thai for 20 years almost, 18 years. So I come over, I'm staying with them, and what I found out is they were the oddbods as well. They didn't really fit in with the family. So they'd both had a colourful childhood and they'd both done certain things. And when I met them, I was like, where have you two been? Like, they were right on my level. And to come out here and experience that, they were family that I didn't know I had, but couldn't have been closer. So I fly over. I'm working with Six Senses hotels. I'm staying between both hotels, my family's hotel, and I'm going back and forth. And my world just opened up. I'd recently come out of like a 5-6 year relationship at that time. And I started to see things differently. As you know, Thailand doesn't bring one culture together. It's so many different cultures. And right now I'm sort of between my accents. So if I really let my accent go, you can see that you can't really understand what I'm saying because I'm going to start to talk so quickly and I've got to really pull it back. So what I had to do when I was in Six Senses, no one understood a word I was saying at that point. So they were like, look, we love you. We like what you're doing. You generating revenue. Nobody knows what you're saying. So it was a whole thing of having to adapt myself to this environment. And, you know, like pump with Thai dye. It's like I done my best to learn as much Thai as I could at that point. And I was very, very fortunate to go into Six Senses. And I think that hotel's been there for 16 years. And across the brand, in February 2019, I generated the highest revenue from fitness ever in Six Senses hotels. And that was my first month. And yeah, my Thailand story starts from there. So 90 days later, I was flown. Again, all pinch myself moments. I was flown. Six Senses rang me and they said, hey Jay, your contract's coming up. It's Easter time. What are you doing? And I was like, I was just going to go back home. At that point, I was like, I'd done it. And they said, okay, well, we got the Prince of Morocco traveling to the Maldives. Would you like to go to the Maldives for a month to coach the Prince of Morocco? I'm like, of course, yeah, absolutely, definitely. So I do that. I'm put in a position where a load of people from British television, I'm training them, and you know, I'm really starting to be influenced by these people and understand them. And at that point, I'm still a bit of a fanboy, so I'm starting to see the human in these people and obviously develop a way of communicating. For those who don't know, Six Senses is the world's leading luxury wellness and sustainability hotel. You know, 5-star and the 1%ers, as some like to say. So
yeah, in that corner there, I think they used to do like the Red Bull high dive, cliff diving. I think they shut it down, but I'm pretty sure
it was in that area. Yeah,
right in that area.
They shut between the two islands, the Koh Yao Noi, Koh Yao Yai. They stopped all the climbing and stuff. The locals weren't too happy with it, so they stopped the climbing. But yeah, stories of this, it's not really my world, but I've definitely heard of it. Some of the older local Farangs, they're pretty annoyed that they can't climb. They got to climb. They got to pay someone to climb or whatever.
Yeah, and I think it's the back of the hotel. I've been there on a motorbike, and you got to take a trail, but it's a bit of a hike.
Yeah,
and it's not so easy to get to.
Yeah.
So now, this is what year are we at Koh Yao Noi? So you're getting you go to the Maldives or the Prince of Morocco.
Yeah.
And from there, now you're coming back to Koh Yao Noi again?
So sort of what happened then was they sent me then to coach in Oman and Dubai. I'd done that for 90 days. I went home to Liverpool for maybe a few weeks, and then I come back here on a 6-month contract. I was supposed to be here November until April.
Same with Six Sense.
Yeah, with Six Senses. So I was coming back, same thing, contract November to April, and then I was going to move. So November 2019 to April 2020. Now we all know what happens in that time period. I was supposed to come back and then go to Six Senses Ibiza. Done 3-4 months. The world stopped. COVID happened. In that time again, I was really starting to find my feet with Six Senses and understand what I needed to do to progress myself forward individually and as one of their team members as well, I'll say. So we moved forward. COVID happened, so I was basically on Koh Yao Noi from November until August. So it's a long period of time. It's like 9 months, 10 months. And, you know, everywhere become quiet. It was crazy quiet. So Koh Yao Noi was, again, it become, for me, too quiet. So if you left the island, you couldn't return. There was no food left on the island. There was literally a boat coming with food every day. And we were like, okay, what's for food today? Like, it become bad. And I was looking at my family own a gym. It was all closed off, so I could still do bits of fitness. But it was the best place to be for me until it was possibly the worst place to be. It's like there was nothing. And I was in a relationship at the time. Me and my girlfriend at the time moved over. And we come over to Phuket. We actually split up, and that's when I really started to find my feet. So it was August 2020, I come over to Phuket. And honestly, I come over to Phuket. You obviously know my story up to that point. I had zero money. Zero. I had no money at all. I was dependent on government loans that were coming in from England at the time, because I was still paying my tax there. And wow, I went and lived in Kathu. For those of you who don't know, Kathu is one of the cheaper places to live in Phuket, right in the center of the island. And I think I was paying like 5,500 baht rent, which is around $150. And I couldn't afford a gym membership. One of the reasons why I come over, I'm sort of going to go back to soccer now, football now, is I played in a football tournament just over, because there was nothing to do. I played with the locals, and I'll brush over that quickly, as I done well in the tournament. I went from being the small kid playing with the big boys, who in Liverpool I was getting elbowed off the ball, and to being the big boy with the smaller boys. So it was a crazy transaction. So I come over, maybe getting back into football, and a lot of uncertainty, didn't know anyone. I was paying like 60 to 80 baht for a football session with the Thais, a game, and I was going to find like 20 baht cups of coffee and 40 baht gym memberships and like rustic side seat gyms, and I was on the bones of my ass, as I like to say. And you know, I'm starting to meet like a couple of the lads, and I'm very, very fortunate. So I meet my friend called Nick. He owns PCA Thailand, and he was one of the first people I met. And then I go into meet like Ad, Sammy, these type of people, and they sort of changed my life and my perspective, because they were just like me, living in this different country. And yeah, we begin to move forward. So I started training in Tiger Muay Thai, 2021 or January for about 3-4 months. Honestly, I'd made a bit of money online PT, and I was building my online fitness coaching, doing like fat loss, muscle gain, and nutrition for people. And I started training, but at this point, I've gained a bit of weight now. But at that point, I was like 73 kilos. I was really, really slim, and I was really slim because I couldn't afford to eat or train. It's like I couldn't afford it. It was what it was. So I'm now in the classes when I'm training with like a couple of fighters and stuff, and it was really. At that point, I'd followed UFC. We used to stay up and party and watch UFC all night and stuff like this. So there's a couple of faces who were new, and I was like, whoa, there's such and such. And, you know, I'm still that Liverpool lad at heart, really. And, yeah, crazy. So I wanted to stand out in some sort of way. Again, I'm going to do stuff to extreme. And Coach Cobes was head of fitness at the time, and head of S&C, and doing a great job there. So I wanted to put myself under his radar. So some of the classes, my ego was trying to beat some of the fighters, not in any way, just in like a run or in like a strength feat to show that, you know, I'm on par with athletes in certain ways. Long story short is, the second I walked into Tiger Muay Thai, I was like, wow, imagine working here. Like, could you imagine working in this place? You've got everything that you need. You know, it's just, I remember walking in there and just being blown away by the facilities, by the people who'd been through there, who'd stayed there, and also the attitude of people around camp. It's like, it creates this mindset, which I can never really put my finger on it, but it's just something that you can feel.
Well, it's that collective mind as well, and everyone's kind of on the same page and same like goal of what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, like, how can I stand out to get in? So that's why I started to, like, you know, really started to put so much effort into classes and stuff, because I was going to ask for an internship or a guest coach role. So you fast forward 4 to 6 months, it's like June, July. I actually say to Coach Cobes on a beach walk one day, I say to him, hey man, if you need any athletes or if you need any interns or something, let me know. At the point, they had 90 people in the gym. Now, very recently, I've had 100 people in one class. So we had 90 people in the gym. We had a couple of classes running, but I was fortunate that Coach Cobes got a call to go and coach Pattinson in Russia for the Corey Sandhagen fight. It was supposed to be Sterling, but he pulled out that one, which made like a space free in the gym. So then a year to the day I landed in Phuket, I'm now on the gym floor with Coach Tommy, and I'm like, here we go, like what's what? And, you know, I think someone else said this in the podcast, I can't recall who, within 10 days, I'm walking down the beach and people are saying, "Hi, coach, how are you?" I'm like, "Hey, man, you good?" Like, wow, like it's almost an immediate thing. As you know, this place is tiny, isn't it? It's a very, very tight-knit, small community. And the COVID people at the time, there wasn't many. There was not a lot of people here. So the Farangs and I sometimes say like the Thai Farangs, who would come into class and heavily involved with us Westerners, you know, they started to speak to me and communicate in a slightly different way. And I then volunteered for Tiger. I volunteered then for Tiger. I volunteered then for Tiger for 7 months. So I recorded over 350 hours of work, peak time work. I was always, you know, trying to learn from the likes of, you know, Peter, Tommy, Cobes, Holly, these people at the time. They'd been in that position for 4 to 6 years, some of them, and, you know, I really valued the information that they were given and also the quality of work that they were putting out even through high season. I really admired every one of them in their own individual way. So I was just like a sponge, man. Like, one of the main things I've learned over time and reinventing myself is just knowledge is not without application. You know, you learn, you apply. And off of being able to apply frequently, and, you know, people were sick. So then, "Jay, can you cover?" "Yeah, I can cover." "Can you do this?" "Yeah, I can do this." It's like, I got a skill of acquired over time of nutrition with the bodybuilding, and, you know, I've started to see where I could have maybe fit into that business. So 8 months went by like that. I had an amazing time there, but just visa complications, I had to change and go do my own thing. So I went from the guest coach to the intern. Then I left and was just going back to doing my online business. Was starting to, you know,
Doing it all from Thailand.
Yeah, doing it all from Thailand, working from Thailand, like working online remotely. And, you know, this island, I know we mentioned before we talk, it's so beautiful in so many different ways, but it's so appealing to others for that reason. And, you know, working online from here is a lot easier to do maybe from my mum's spare bedroom in Liverpool. It's a little bit easier to do, so to say. And I was aware of that. I was aware that my profile had been raised locally, just with naturally working in Tiger. And, you know, some of my friends now here, like the likes of, I don't know, you know, Ade Shaw, these type of people, known locally, very well known on the island, very respected on the island. And, you know, I think just being around them gave me confidence. Like, I could see that they'd been successful here for some time and in so many different ways. They've got so many different people here who have, in my opinion, a lot of people here have already made it, or they're on the way to making it, whatever that means for them. And where was we then? I've travelled, just before I travelled home, so it's been 3.5 years since I went home. That was in July. I was called in by the bosses at Tiger and basically said to me, like, "Do you want a full-time job?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm going away now for a month. I've had this booked." So I went away for a month, seen everyone in Liverpool, went to Dubai, came back and started as a full-time coach in Tiger. And now this is August of last year. So you could write a book in the last 6 months of my life. It's been bizarre. So I landed in August last year. I took a whole month off of training just to let my everything reset and basically was ready to go again. I landed back. I was in a car crash, a bike crash. Someone was on the other side of the road, smashed straight into me, so I had to recover from the bike crash. Shortly after, I was in a bit of a car crash. Someone T-boned me from the side. He was on his phone. And then I got dengue fever. So I'll have to explain dengue for some people that don't. Dengue fever is contracted by mosquitoes. It is the worst illness I've ever had. Have you had dengue?
I don't know. Maybe. Sometimes you never know what you're having. I'm too afraid to go to the hospital.
Well, that's in the same boat.
Well, I think at that time, the whole current situation, you just didn't want to deal with, like, is that what it was?
Well,
but you never know, so yeah.
Well, exactly that. It's like the man inside of me is like, "I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm okay. And the reality was I'd lost 7 kilos in like 6 days and I was in a bad way. I was very, very sick. And I actually went to the clinic next door to Tiger and about 6 days in, and my platelets, I think it's platelets were low, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going into work." She's like, No. You go and sit in that room and you do this. And she was explaining to me, like, my platelets are like 60 and if they go below 50, I'm
Do they have medicine for that here? It's not like, what is it? Malaria, completely different.
Yeah.
But is it similar, dengue to malaria?
She gave me something I can't recall, and she put me on a drip. And then she was just, at that point, I was on the rise coming back out of it. So she's like, you need to eat, you need to do this. But I still had the rash, and yeah, I wasn't fit to work, but I wanted to get back into work. I like what I'd done. And yeah, at that point, I was off the Tiger timetable until September 1st. So yeah, that's when it really starts to change in Tiger Muay Thai. So September, October, I was fitness coach doing a 12:30 class, and you know, numbers would rise at the time, and I'm very, 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 very grateful, very fortunate that my class just peaked, man. I was getting like 50 people, 45, 50 people a day in heavy low season. I'm pretty sure you can remember the rain. The rain didn't stop. Anyone who doesn't know, there was three months last year where it.
The mountains were collapsing.
Yeah.
It was. They said a lot of people that have been here 30 years, 25 years said it was the worst rain they've ever seen in that 20 to 30 year time frame.
Yeah, exactly that. And you know, my house flooded. So my house flooded really badly. I had to move out for a couple of weeks. Everything, man. So all of the fluid tanks and the toilets and all that, it rose. So my house literally had crap floating around it. So that was a point. What I haven't mentioned is that I am on a bodybuilding prep. I started that in the 1st of September as well. So, you know, really dialed in, training, you know, at the right time, on a regiment like you wouldn't believe. 5 a.m. starts, 9 a.m. 9 p.m. finish, pass out, wake up, go again. And to do well in bodybuilding, you've got to be selfish, you've got to be greedy, you've got to be dialed in 24/7 of the day. And it's 12, 16 weeks long. It's a long time period. It's a long season, as I like to say. And yeah, man, I put everything into that prep. There's a video on my Instagram, and people will see this, and people will know this, and they'll laugh because of it. But look, my house was flooded. I'm taking all of the drugs for bodybuilding, okay? I'm heavily stressed. It's about 2 weeks to my 90-day probation period in Tiger. No, it's not even that. It's about 5 days, if that. I got a lot happening, and my house flooded, and I didn't know what to do. So I sat down and I picked up my guitar and I just started singing on my guitar. I was like, I didn't know what to do. And at the time, it was funny when everyone see me. It was like very, very stressed. And then in a moment of chaos, just start playing the guitar. And at that point, I was going through a lot of change in my life as well. Privately, there was stuff happening, and I was planning a presentation to put to the bosses at Tiger. So whilst my house was still flooded and I was living between two houses and stuff, I actually was put a presentation forward and was promoted in Tiger to head of fitness on the 1st of November, just gone. 2 weeks later, you know, I'm immersed in this environment now. I must be like 8% body fat. Stress levels, cortisol is through the roof. At the time, trying to dial it in as much as I can to do as good as I can inside of bodybuilding. So at that point, I'd competed in bodybuilding 12 times and I'd lost every single time. But, you know, it's some quote, it's not how you fall, it's how you stand up. And every single time, just brushed it off, got back up, went forward again, brushed it off, just kept getting what I felt was like a baseball bat to the face. And then you stand up and you go again, you stand up, you go again. And that mentality over time, you know, I'd been doing that for 5-6 years at this point. When I first landed in Phuket, I was 74 kilos. I'm going on holiday, I was 94, and I'd come back down, I was shredded. I was given the head coach role, which, like, I really want to highlight that, you know, the head of fitness in Tiger Muay Thai is something that I couldn't have even dreamed of. You think about where I've come from to get here. So in a second, I'll speak about someone who's been spoken about on the podcast. And honestly, I understand Cobes, I understand Woody, I understand the people who have tried to get into this position. I understand who they are, what they've accomplished, and what they went on to accomplish in the last, 4 to 6 years. I respect it so much, and I've been given this opportunity at 28. I'm in my personal. I'm a baby in this world, and I'm aware that I'm very, very young. And getting that position made me realize, I've done certain things to get here, but also, I had a quote once: "You've got to work so hard to get it, but you've got to work 10 times harder to keep it." And like immediately from there, I was like, I'm dialed in with the bodybuilding and stuff, but I've got to be on it for everybody. I want to be as good of a people person as I can in Tiger. So, you know, no matter what I'm going through, you know, the people need me, whether they need me for the fight camp, whether they need me for fat loss, whether they need me for motivation, you know, just general things. The classes were getting bigger, 50, 60 people. And I was like, okay, even if I've got my bodybuilding show, I can't show. I've got to make sure that I'm there, I'm on time, I'm professional, I'm reliable. And that's what happened. So a couple of weeks later, I flew to Bangkok. I come second in Bangkok in classic bodybuilding. Was unfortunate not to win it, and that was like the 13th time I've competed. And then 2 weeks after that, I have the PCA Thailand National Championships, and it was the Phuket Championships followed by the National Championships. And this was it. This was stuff I'd worked towards now for 6-7 years, and I'd never won. And, you know, every time going in, I was like, this is the time. It was like, this is it. Like, always, this is the time. This is the time. And, you know, it hurts when you lose, but you develop a thicker layer of skin. If I would have won earlier, I wouldn't have been that hungry to carry on driving forward, moving forward. And just with, like, relentless dedication and consistency, it's like, I'm not doing anything different. It's just compounding, isn't it? It's just over time. It's just working. And, you know, man, like, I say this with such a big smile on my face because it means the world to me. Like, I won the men's physique medium class in the Thailand National Championships on the 4th of December, just gone, so 3 months ago. 14 attempts, and I won on the 14th attempts. It was actually a couple more because I completed a couple of times in the day, but it's like one of my Instagram posts, and I read it recently, it was like fall down 13, stand up 14, and it's like, man, like, I get goosebumps and everything, and it's like, I can't express how hard I worked in order to keep everything rolling in Tiger and not let that affect me, but also, you know, keep it together, win this show, do the prep, do the posing, do the diet for so long. And, you know, all them failures, all that time I'd just been, like, there was times in England where I'd drive home crying. Like, I wouldn't say not to my girlfriend at the time, but I'd be crying driving home, or I'd be so close to winning, and there's a point, or it's just, bodybuilding's an opinionated sport, of course, and I knew that if I carried on working forward, that I'd be able to you know, accomplish something, but just happened to be in a space of like 3 weeks time, 4 weeks time.
Is there maybe a connection to that number 14? Do you see this repeat throughout your life?
No, but now you say that, I'm going to look into it. No.
What happened in 2014?
No, 2015, yeah, 2014. Yeah. But there's a couple of things now you mention it, and even in other ways, which I haven't said in here, which that 14s does come up. Yeah, I see that straight away. Wow.
Yeah, we'll have to dig deep into that. He's going to be looking at numbers when he gets home.
Now you say that, yeah, wow. So look, I accomplished two of the biggest things in my entire life, and obviously, saying that my background, I now am the head of fitness for Tiger Muay Thai, the world's biggest fight camp, and I am the Thailand men's physique bodybuilding champion. That's just fucking bizarre. Like
now, when they're competing, it's not just foreigners; it's both Thai and foreigners.
Both Thai and foreigners. Wow. Yeah. It's mixed. So PCA's been it's been massive in England, and then branched out around the world. It's the highest grossing bodybuilding, highest growing bodybuilding federation in bodybuilding. Very lucky now. I'm going to be chasing in the next year or 2 years, how long it takes. I haven't trained for 4 months, which I'll explain why in a second, to try and chase my pro card. So, as I said, I'm given this thing where I'm head of fitness, Tiger Muay Thai. I'm now this like bodybuilding champion. It's like, this is what I've worked towards since I got out of jail, basically. It's exactly what I've worked towards. And as I said earlier, I was not working towards the bodybuilding goal to one thing, but Tiger Muay Thai, and I was heading in that right direction. So, yeah.
You're padding that resume, that portfolio. I mean, these are just milestones on the portfolio. So as you move on in your career, it's, you know, these social credits essentially.
Yeah, it's exactly that. And you know, as I explained before, Phuket's a small place, and a lot of people had known me and seen what my almost rise here. And we said this before the podcast, and this is something I want to touch on. You know, we got new gyms opening up, amazing new gyms opening up, and we've got good competition, I'll say, and a lot of the boys in that gym, I just see that I'm the next generation behind them, and they're my friends. Some of them are my close friends as well, and I speak to them quite regularly. It's like, the way I look at the path of, you could say, like the likes of John Boy, the likes of Peter, the likes of Cobbs, Woody, the Hickman brothers, is that, you know, they all left, say moved on. A lot of them left and moved on, and I seen that they moved on and went somewhere else. I could have been part of the furniture coming through, and what happened then from December up until now is just incredible. So, you know, like I'd been working into this S&C world and slowly working this S&C world in the background for, it was almost 2 years at that point, just slowly learning and applying. I was covering classes. I spent a significant time covering certain classes and taking on S&C clients. And then all of a sudden, I finished that show 4th December. I didn't take a break. I had 1 day off and I'm back into the classes. Classes, as we know, high season really started to grow then, didn't it? By mid-December, we've got 60 people Tuesdays and Thursdays in class. And, you know, we went over Tiger's structure and we edited certain things and we put certain things in place for high season. So from mid-December up until after Songkran. And what then happened and what has happened the last few months of my life is incredible. I mean, the athletes I've worked with, the volume of athletes I've worked with has just been honestly like mind-blowing. Is that, you know, Christmas, come over Christmas, we have like 60, 70 people again. And then January hit, as you know, this island, January into mid-February it was just...
One sec, I want to interrupt quick. I have a feeling the power is going to go out. I just got this weird sixth sense. What if the power goes out, do we fuck up everything? No. Okay. If it goes out, that's a fucking teaser. No, because they're doing some stuff outside, and I remember this morning, I just wanted to double check with them, because we've had the power go out, and then like it can corrupt the files. I don't know if you saw when you drove in, you saw that pole?
Yeah.
Before you came on, I was going to be like, well, let's be careful if it cuts out. So we're okay if it cuts out, right? We don't fuck up the file?
It's not recording on this anymore.
Okay, good. Okay, back into it. If it goes out, like, I don't know. I'm going to the casino after this.
All good.
So, yeah, you're talking more that support group and kind of like,
yes,
you're becoming that next generation. What do you guys have like a support group of maybe all the guys where you can communicate and what they did and what they would do differently, and you kind of you're getting that information from them as well to maybe do it the right way or a different way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a great question for a number of reasons. Is that in looking at it, no, there's not actually a support group there. But when I got put into this position, I inherited Tiger Fitness at where it's at now. And respectively, other people had built that up, and there was a culture that they put in place. And Coach Tommy, who's there now, in my opinion, he was the most important coach because he'd seen this over 5-6 years, and I immediately wanted to go back to what was put in place all them years ago and why it becomes so good. So, you know, I wanted to build off the foundation they'd laid, but obviously put different things and different classes, and, you know, working all that time with Six Senses. Emotional hospitality was a big thing that I wanted to implement, and I will implement into this high season, into this low season, for next high season. And yeah, the support group is necessary when I'm with them individuals. So if I do see them, you know, I know my age, and I'm going to ask people questions, and I'm going to reply. And if someone tells me something and I apply it, it's because I've learned something in a good way. And, you know, there's been a change around with gyms and stuff like that. So that support group maybe would have been there if it was a little smoother transaction, I'll say. But that's not to be. And from like a lad's perspective, we're all good mates, you know. And I know even recently, if I reach out to any of the guys who are either in my team or not in my team, but I've worked with before, they help me out, man.
This Tiger Muay Thai, let's say the career path of someone, whether they're in S&C at Bangtown Muay Thai or they're these head coaches of that part of the gym, is there like a laid out roadmap career path where, you know, what are the objectives, what are the goals, what am I trying to get from this? And to kind of extend on that question, it seems like some of the goals that you're adding to your profile and portfolio is the rare opportunity and ability to connect with the UFC fighters and add them to your portfolio that you probably would not get from a back home gym. Does this consciously become a goal of yours as they're coming into the gym and watching them, even guys like Petr Yan with Sean Kober? I mean, I saw Petr Yan come 2016, 17. He's a nobody at this point, but you're seeing these, I don't want to say nobodies, but these people that aren't on the map yet, and you can see who they are. And I want to be a part of that guy's career path. And you're not only are they growing, you're growing with them.
Like, absolutely. Like, so the independent coach journey is different. So you look now, we got a load of different genres of fitness, I'll say. So you got your F45 type stuff, you've got your strength conditioning, your bodybuilding, your CrossFit, and core type classes and ambush type classes we have in Tiger. So the journey is all individually based. So some of them can go, the likes of Holly. Holly's route is she's took completely different S&C, and also she's picked up like a fat loss type world type thing. So for me, absolutely. So from the second I walked in there, I seen them fellas and I was like, I want to work with them. How do I do that? And I'd learned how to do that. And yeah, it's sort of as I'm going to go now, and the world that I will go into, and I'm just stepped into right now, is that world of UFC fighters. And, so January and February of this year, extremely grateful to have Tuesday and Thursday for about 6 weeks. I had over 100 people in every single class.
And the fighters, they're part of those S&C classes. I mean, yes, they have their BJJ, their MMA classes, but then they kind of join the community of the S&C.
Yeah, so like I try not to do like names as such, but I'll mention a few names. So the likes of like Darren Till, Mohammed Makayev, Petr Yan, Brendan Loughnane, Kane Musa. They're like the people off the top of my head.
And even your fighter that fought last week.
Yeah, so you've got Roman Dolidze. He fought Marvin Vettori last week in UFC London.
Questionable loss.
Very questionable.
Very questionable.
Roman won 1-2.
Yeah, that was... I watched, after I talked to you on the phone, I watched that right after. Yeah. And I tried to watch, with no not being blind, no blinkers on. And... wow, he came out trying to murder him.
Well, Roman's got crazy power. Roman's like life and brain is very unique to Roman. And, we spent the last 6 to 8 weeks working together before that camp and working on a lot of speed-based stuff. Roman's got a lot of power. We just want to move him a bit quicker. That was the main thing with him, is holding his strength, but making him quicker. And Roman is an aggressive, super aggressive elite grappler. Like, some of the guys, they tap before they hit the floor because they know that guy is incredible, and we never really got to see that from him in that fight, and that was stuff that they were working on. And honestly, you look at the last 3 minutes, I genuinely think it's even to that point. I can't understand what Vettori does to win that third round. I can't see the logic in that. But you look at Roman, the last couple of months of working with Roman, I actually got Roman off. I was working with a guy called Ihor Porteria, so he fought Shogun Rua in Brazil. He beat him in January, and as you can see, I'm just starting to reel off names from UFC, and countless one championship fighters, Muay Thai, Bellator, Cage Warriors organisation from England. I mean, on that London card last week, I think in class I'd had 7 or 8 athletes in the last 2 months, which is fucking incredible. I think there was 15 fighters. I think there was 14, 16 fighters. I'm not too sure, but every other fight, there was someone who'd been in my class recently, Christine Lee Duncan, Lerone, these type of people. And you know what? Like, they're coming up to me, and for a while then was helping them in different aspects of, the nutrition background was a big thing. Some fighters needed help with. And after 2 years of being in this world, I'm really put into that step. I was interviewed for UFC, and the feel around that, people's association with me are beginning to change. You're getting respect in different areas. And I like to use Petr Yan for an example. When I first come in, obviously, he's doing this S&C with Cobes, and he'd been in that gym for a couple of years before. He's been in that gym for, I think, maybe longer, 2016, 2017, 15. And, he didn't look at me at the start. None of them people who'd been there from the start was looking at me. But then, you if you're dedicated to your work and people see that, respect is earned, it's not given. These guys aren't going to give me respect. And one of the classes, if you look at my thing online, over a couple of periods, I had like the WBO pound for pound #1, the world champion Sambo world champion wrestlers, world champion this, Petr Yan and all these all these cronies came, and there was classes where we had 100 people, and there was 4 or 5 from UFC in there, and it just, that really opened up my profile, my name, my brand over the last couple of weeks. And yeah, it got in my opinion, we've got back to the roots of what it was, and we've got the top end athletes training with people who are just coming in at entry level. And my goal from the start of coming in was, how can I unite this world, and how can I do that again? How can we bring this together? And that's on me to design structures that are challenging enough for the athletes, but almost, I'll use the word joinable or accessible for the people who aren't as such. And, you know, after classes, the atmosphere, in class, the atmosphere, I couldn't put my finger on it, man. It was so unique, so life-changing for me. Like, I'm looking around the room, and I used the word dad and Till. So Dad and Till and I've got a bit of a weird story. We went to school together. We grew up in the same neighborhood. I watched Darren go to Portugal. I watched Darren go through all the stuff in his life. We were never friends. We had a few mutual friends, but he went to Portugal. He learned the local language. He's a left-handed Scouser, and Scouser means a person from Liverpool, for people who don't know. He's a left-handed Scouser, and he went out there and he made his way to the top of his food chain by relying on nothing but his physical attributes and learning that local language, as I mentioned, all these. And I watched Darren's entire life at arm's distance. Again, we were never close friends or anything like that, but we had many mutual friends. And I watched him when he had a couple of hundred followers on Instagram, and I watched that guy rise to the top. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, he comes into the, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, at that point, we'd seen each other a few times. So I'm like, Scouse, I'm like, what's happening, lad? How are we? And he's like, I'm good. What are you up to, lad? And he's like, I'm coming to your class. And I was like, yeah, you coming in? So he comes in, all the others come in, and I've got this weird moment where, like, I'd watched Dan's story, but just kept it to myself, because I took inspiration of what he'd been able to do as a guy who's relying but not on his physical attributes and, you know, social networking and stuff to rise in a different continent. I couldn't find anyone who'd done it. So I was out on Koh Yao Noi going, who's done this? And again, it wasn't as literal as that, but I'd watched Dan's story and took information. And then he's in my class, and I got them all in my class. And not only in class, they're returning to class, they're enjoying it, they're getting the benefits from it. But then you look at all the other people in class, and they're like, that's Dan and Till, and that's Pattinson, and that's Brendan, and that's these type of guys. And, you know, I look at the likes of them, and we cut from the same cloth. You know, we are the boys, and, you know, they found a way to knock people out and make themselves go to the top and whatever they're doing. And, you know, I believe I've had to use, like, my social skills and awareness and you know, assertiveness and ability to strive forward and be better to find myself in this position. So I take a lot of inspiration from them guys, and you look at them coming into class, and, you know, I'm working with three athletes who are active in the UFC, and I've been doing this for quite some time now, but this is really just the start for me. And I can feel what I'm going to do moving forward. And, you know, the gym, Tiger Muay Thai at the moment is thriving. Like, high season's just on its way down, but
I think it's still going to be kind of, I think it's going to stay quite consistent, and even right back into the high season. It's interesting how you word that. I mean, a lot of these athletes you're training, I wouldn't put it into the perspective as like you're a fitness coach and you're a tool from them. I think it's a negative way to look at it. But you do mention yes, you're giving to them and you're teaching and training them, but you're also getting something out of it. And that is the inspiration, the motivation to see these guys that have risen instead of just draining all your energy. There is that two-way street.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's like, you know, I never want to, like, I fully understand my position, and I understand that as a fitness coach, we're there to supplement a diet, athlete's lifestyle. You know, we're there to, I'm fortunate that I can help with nutrition as well in various different ways, but it's you're there to help them, and you're there to just help them step in that one direction and not over strategize things and overcomplicate things. It's not what you're there to do. So I understand that, but I also understand that, you know, these are the lads, these want to have a bit of fun, you know, and they won't want to take life too seriously. So that's also refreshing to hear from me. It's like, you know, they're out there. Some of these guys are killers, you know that. Some of them are putting the life on the line, literally, at some points. And how people can't take inspiration from that, I don't know. But in my perspective, I feel that watching all these grow and being around them, again, you rise. So I'll use Roman Dolidze and Iho Porteria. So both of them are working with them now. Iho's 26. He's on the rise in UFC. He's got a good few matchups. Roman, you know, just won his last 3 fights by bonus prior to this one. And this was a strange fight. It was a weird fight.
I think that's what's good about UFC and Dana White. After a fight like that, your stock goes up. It does not go down, especially what you did to Vettori. I mean, he's fought for a belt, so it's nothing to even worry about.
Yeah, exactly that. It's like, the athlete in him wants to win because it's that number, and he could have literally called for the title shot then because there's no one else. He's fresh blood, as he said, as in his own words. But that being said, I think Roman, if he sees that fight back again, he would approach that differently. Roman's super intellectual. And I think that might be a bit of like frustration on his behalf. But, he was the best he ever felt leaving camp. And I'm around him doing his UFC, the full camp, the cameras are on him. And you can see there's a glow off him. They've got to have a swagger about them, haven't they?
You got to have the X factor. You got to have that.
Exactly.
You need the confidence. You can't go into a high-level UFC fight not thinking you're going to win.
Exactly. And you know what? He fought Vettori. Vettori's only lost to the best of the best. And, in another world, they're a different judge. He probably loses.
Well, when I was watching that fight, I mean, I think he probably was quite surprised because he hit him a couple times where he should have dropped. You saw him go back. As an outside fan, I think he should have thrown a couple to the body because they were so big at the head. But I think a couple where if he adjusted to the body, I think that really would have fucking took the gas out of Vittori's tank.
Yeah, for sure. Like you look at that from that perspective, he could have, went to the body, could have just went for a shot for a couple of takedowns, exhausted, went up top again. But I think there's just one aspect of Roman's game, and it's just experience. So Roman started fighting when he was 28. He's 34. Exactly. Exactly. He was a footballer until 22, and then was world champion grappler by 28, and then started throwing hands at 28. So like, it's a late time to start getting fighting in UFC. And I think if he's a little bit more experienced there, he throws a few up, he goes down, he goes back up again, and he changes the levels a little bit more. But that's what I mean. If Roman's seen that fight back once, I think he changes it, and I think he goes back and
he was just headhunting.
Because Vettori's work didn't really slow Roman. Maybe a couple more rounds of the leg kicks because it was starting to get a bit raw, that left leg. But I think Roman was shocked that he didn't go down, and then at that point it's a case of maybe a changing game plan that we go for.
Okay, we're gonna end it on this note because and I think this won't be the last of Jay because we'll definitely bring you back. It's just with the YouTube algorithm, they want us under an hour and 19 minutes. It's so strange. The second so the way YouTube works, it's like there's a certain amount of people that watch certain time frames, and when you pass it, it like fucks you up in the algorithm.
Yeah.
But I would love to bring you back, and especially if people let us know in the comments like questions that we didn't touch upon. And it's always good to bring the guests back for a second time because the intention of the first podcast is really to tell that life story, and the second one is we get to kind of go all over the place and have a bit more fun and jump around and do these Q&As. I think this is probably one of our best podcasts so far, Hans. Am I right? I think this is an awesome story. So before we kind of like cut it out there, and then I'm going to pass it to your camera to let everyone know where to find you. And this will kind of lead into the next podcast. Just kind of let us know what's next on the table for you. What are you looking to accomplish between the time now and if we brought you back in like 3 to 6 months? So when we have that conversation, we have something to look back at.
Yeah, so right now, working with a couple of guys in UFC. They got fights late April, early May. And the idea is now to consistently progress forward in terms of the world of S&C. I'm going to put an online structures in place for my business online. And really help people move forward in the gym as well. So I'll be going back over and evaluating all the stuff from high season just gone. And the numbers go lower, but it's still consistent. So the idea now is to better myself as a coach, to better myself as a human, to keep growing and honestly, in the next 3 to 6 months, keep building on that UFC resume, keep stepping up in that world. And I say UFC, one championship, Bellator. I've worked with so many of these other guys as well. As we know, UFC is top of the food chain, so it's easy for me to talk about that. But on top of that as well, so I haven't trained for 4 months since the show because I wanted to focus on other people, and I'd accomplished what I felt I needed to accomplish. And then I rushed into this high season. So, what are we now? 23rd of March, Thursday. I'm going to start training on Monday. I'm actually going to watch PCA Bangkok, give me a bit of motivation. And the idea is in the next 18 months, year to 18 months with that, is to chase my pro card with the PCA Federation. But yeah, inside of that, working with a lot of pro athletes, continue to grow as a coach, continue to learn, put myself in these environments. But yeah, get back on it. I feel the worst I've felt in a few months. Like, if you put it'd be like Instagram versus reality. So if you put the photo of me in that show 3 months ago, and then now, it's not the same body. It's not the same.
Well, I think
person.
anybody, no one's walking around like that. So that's just the reality as well. And also, I think on the next podcast, I'm gonna take a note and I'm gonna put that on my board. We're gonna have you dig deep into that number 14, and maybe that'll be the question. You're gonna maybe come back with like 50 different fucking things. All right. So just before we end, I'm gonna shoot it over to this camera. If you could just let everyone know also where they can find you, especially for the PT stuff and your online courses. We're going to put all links in the description. So if you plug it away, shill it away, just let them know right into that camera where everyone can find you. And we'll put that all into our description. So
yeah, you'll find me on Instagram mainly at Coach Jay Patto, Coach COACH. I'm dyslexic, I really got to think about that. JAYPATTO. You'll find me on Instagram at Coach Jay Patto. You'll also find me on Facebook at just Jay Patto. And obviously, I'm all over Tiger's website. I'm on Tiger's Instagram quite a lot as well. So yeah, you'll find me there. And
the best way if people want to reach out to you for this stuff would be Instagram?
Yeah, the best way to, especially if it's fitness related, if it's S&C, fat loss, want some advice. Obviously, with that story, I tend to get a lot of people asking me for certain things. So feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. I'm responsive inside once every 24 hours or so.
Okay. Great. That ends another episode of Fruiting Body Podcast. Don't forget, check out our mushrooms. Well, I guess if this is the audio, holding a bottle of lion's mane. Don't worry, they're not psychedelic. This is all natural, all organic, made in Thailand. We'll leave links in the description for that as well. We have the website, but the purchasing is through Lazada because I'm not paying fucking Shopify. So fuck you, Shopify. We're out.